Hey everyone! I've received multiple requests for a Desktop Tuesday that takes a break from focusing on features and detailed development, and that instead focuses on the state of Stonehearth, where we've been and where we're going. The week before last, we celebrated our 200th Twitch stream, which you can find archived on our Twitch channel. In it, we did a lot of the where we've been. We looked at previous alphas, starting from the graphics test, to Roofless Alpha 1, to Trappers and Weavers through Alpha 5. We looked at the giant improvements that got us to Steam Early Access, at the Desert and Rise Children, the introduction of safe compatibility, and finally, all the new combat improvements from Alphas 14 and 16. We've come an incredibly long way together. Today, I want to start answering your second question, where we're going. It's a bit hard to talk about this because we believe that Stonehearth's strength as a game comes from our close iterative development conversations and interactions with all of you. Each of our alphas is designed around delivering you either one significant fun feature, like a new class, or around relieving a pain point, like fixing bad performance or incomplete buildings. We meet every Monday as a team to realign our plans for the week and make sure that we are always working on the most important thing. It's very common for us to change our weekly tasks based on bugs you've reported and features you tell us would make your experience of the game better. This process allows us to get you all consistent, regular builds that actually work. However, it makes it very hard to talk with confidence about a schedule when you might get all the things you're looking for. Details change every day, and features change dramatically every month. So if we can't talk about when we're getting features or what those features are in detail until we actually implement them and iterate on them with you, what is a useful way to think about where we're going? Well, one thing we know for sure is that we will continue to focus on finishing single-player PC Stonehearth before we look at multiplayer or Mac and Linux support. Multiplayer and Mac and Linux are still definitely planned, but multiplayer in particular is exponentially more difficult than single-player from a gameplay, technical, and social perspective. Therefore, it's really important that we finish the foundational elements of the game first, and that means a completely satisfying single-player experience. That said, where are we going within the scope of single-player PC Stonehearth? Well, one way to look at the future is to speak broadly about the three largest recurring challenges our team is currently facing, since meeting them head-on will be a recurring theme for the weeks and months to come. Challenge number 1 is the design loop at the heart of our game. A lot of the really good feedback you've given us this year, about combat, about the Trapper, about building gameplay, or our lack thereof, has made us realize that our existing simulations don't work together nearly as well as we'd like them to. Really good games have an ever-expanding loop. They teach you something, reward you for doing that, and then broaden your scope of capabilities in an ever-expanding tornado until you are a legitimate master of the system. We need to tune Stonehearth's design tornado and make sure that it links all of our existing systems together. Challenge number 2 is performance. Are your Hearthlings idle? Are they doing something dumb? Probably it's because your CPU is maxed out, and that is because the simulations we write are computationally expensive. Each time we write a new feature, we can't be absolutely certain of its performance impact, especially since the goal of most of our features is to create emergent, unexpected behavior. When you do find issues and report them back to us, it can take hours for us to reproduce and triage these issues, especially if they involve hardware or hardware combinations we don't have in our tiny testing environment. We have to go back and figure out how to tackle our performance issues from base principles instead of after the fact as bug fixes. Challenge number 3 is that we still have big, outstanding art and design questions for the features that are not yet implemented. For example, when you clear the trees, there's giant, empty swaths of green. We can do better than this. Those spaces should be filled with interesting details, but what should those details be? How will they enhance your game, as well as the visual appeal of the world? When we add a new piece of furniture, or a new class, or meet as a team to decide what Titans should be, or how seasons and weather should work, or what should happen at the edge of the world, we need to make our decisions based on a unified, coherent sense of what it eventually should look like. As tempting as it has always been to put in whatever's coolest in that moment, we need to take some time to figure out where we're going so that we can get there in an efficient way and with less backtracking. So how do we begin to address these challenges? One thing we've increasingly realized is that they've been piling up slowly, and that addressing them individually is like patching a leaky boat. Lots of effort with lots of small incremental rewards. Is there a better way? Do our challenges in fact stem from a common root? After much analysis, we have, in fact, come to believe that this is the case. One central problem is this. Stonehearth as a game is really hard to describe to people. I mean, have you ever tried it? We try it all the time, in our Kickstarter, at conventions, to our parents and neighbors and friends, It's a building game with combat and RTS and RPG elements. It's fully moddable. It's like a cute dwarf fortress, which in turn has everything from body part damage to dwarf poetry. So if the game is really difficult to describe, if its vision encompasses everything, well, that's actually quite a large problem. It means that every design choice, RTS or RPG style combat, D&D or Final Fantasy Tactics style leveling, is the right choice. It means that every kind of class could theoretically belong. It means every feature is just as important as every other feature. And what's really true is this: we need more focus. Don't get me wrong, Stonehearth should be inclusive, and one of its strengths is that via mods you should be able to add whatever you want, but at its core, it must focus on a single vision in order to be any fun as a game. So we did some soul searching, looking for proper visions for Stonehearth, ones that encompass the best of what we have, but that also keep us honest to what we still want to build. We also talked a lot with you. We've been asking you what your ideal Stonehearth would be, and we really took your answers to heart, even when they surprised us. In the end, we believe that Stonehearth is this: a town-building ant farm simulation set in a Super Nintendo-style high fantasy world. Put another way, have you ever wondered what it would have been like to build Hyrule's Kakariko Village, or set up Chrono Trigger's Millennial Fair, or Final Fantasy's Figaro Castle and Town, and then really live there? This, we believe, is what we're aiming for in Stonehearth, to make a game where you guide a small group of Hearthlings as they build a fantasy town to your exact specifications inside a living world full of monsters, mysteries, and looming disasters. Okay, so how is that useful? Well, from this vision, a few strong design pillars follow. Number 1, the world must be alive. Part of the appeal of our game is that the Hearthlings and monsters and animals and pets all have their own lives. You can tell them at a high level what you want them to do, but they'll do it in their own way. Furthermore, the world must be full of systems that interact with you as you interact with them. Weather, terrain, water. And finally, the world should be full of ruins and mysteries and monsters, big and small, that are doing their own things and whose lives interact with yours in an organic fashion. The second design pillar that comes from this vision is that the settlement you create must be yours to customize. We've already invested a ton in the building editor. What more can we do to make sure that your town and your townsfolk look exactly as you wish, within our fantasy aesthetic? And pillar number 3 is that creative experiences, as you have shown us, are best shared. We want you to be able to share your towns, tell epic stories about your Hearthlings, and eventually build kingdoms together. So in the months to come, we look forward to applying this vision and these principles to the 3 problems I mentioned earlier, to clarify and enhance Stonehearth as a whole. For example, when we try to knit together our food, building, and happiness systems, or when we need to make a choice about how a simulation should work, we'll pick the thing that will best allow for you, the player, to make a meaningful decision and then get to watch as something interesting plays out. When we look at performance and try to figure out what avenues we can streamline and what systems must be more robust, we'll focus on allowing Hearthlings to express more individuality. When we examine the user experience of the building editor, when we decide how much to allow you to customize your Hearthlings' crafting and gear, when we try to figure out how endgame cities should look and play, we will prioritize your ability to build and place what you want. It is likely that prioritizing and strengthening our core systems will mean that we'll all have to wait longer for some of the bells and whistles we haven't started yet: Titans, weather, festivals, the Northern Alliance, and more. However, we think that this investment now will make for a better game overall, and we look forward to sharing our progress with you in Desktop Tuesdays and streams and regular game updates, as we always have for the last 3 years. So, where does that leave us? Well, Stonehearth now is an ambitious, adorable simulation with some elements, block-by-block building for starters, that we truly believe are unique in the whole gaming field. This is a pretty big achievement for a team comprised mostly of people who've never made a game before. We credit you all with how far we've come, and it is because of you that we continue to push our boundaries, to dream of a Stonehearth that is beautiful and functional and amazingly enjoyable to play. We look forward to sharing this process of refinement and enhancement with you as we go, to continuing to deliver you awesome features and classes and simulations, and giving you faster, stronger, and more enjoyable versions of the things you already have. And of course, we want and need your feedback, as always, to keep us on the right track. Alright, that's quite enough for this week. Let us know what you think about our past, present, and future here in the comments, or on our forum at discourse.stonehearth.net. For those of you watching via YouTube, you can also find all of our past Desktop Tuesdays at stonehearth.net, including the ones that are not videos, like our most recent post about Alpha 17's massive building and scaffolding rewrite. We also resume our regular Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday streaming schedule this week. Check out the details and times on the stonehearth.net sidebar. Thanks again for sticking with us, and see you next week.